To continue, we shall discuss the relationship between Korea and Japan, specifically from the book Explanation for the Sake of Pro-Japan by Kim Wansop. We shall investigate conditions related to Japan's annexation of the Korean peninsula. He wrote as following: "Being born and raised in Korea, I once held strong anti-Japanese sentiment. I hated Japan and refused to study the Japanese language. Furthermore, I felt disgusted when seeing a Korean citizen speaking Japanese. However, my feelings toward Japan would undergo a great change. Upon traveling overseas, I was surprised at how refined Japanese people actually are. Indeed, I learned that Japanese possess many outstanding traits when compared with Koreans. I became capable of considering the position of Korea and Japan in international society through a more objective perspective. Gradually, I escaped from the warped and biased historical awareness concerning the opening of the Korean peninsula and Japanese governance. I feel that I now have a balanced historical awareness. A warped and incorrect historical notion has formed the basis for calculated creation of anti-Japan sentiment. From childhood, at school, at home, and in society, Korean citizens learn a history which has been fabricated using a variety of methods. As a result, normal Korean citizens are instilled with a false historical notion regarding the period of the Governor General of Korea. They believe that Koreans lived as slaves of the Japanese, exploited, killed, and driven out of their homeland. I ardently hope to correct this distorted historical notion of Koreans, no matter what it takes. Ever since the Japanese-Russo War ended in 1905, rather than being considered as a colony, the Korean peninsula was prevalently viewed by Japan as an extension of the Japanese nation itself. At the time, during the governing of the Korean peninsula and Taiwan, local residents generally received the same treatment as Japanese citizens. Indeed, it is believed that the Japanese government engaged in unprecedented treatment, such as heavier investment in these areas than in the Japanese mainland. The Korean peninsula achieved significant growth while under Japanese governance. During a period of slightly more than 30 years, the population increased from less than 10 million to about 25 million, while the average lifespan lengthened from 24 years to 45 years. In a short time period, the undeveloped agricultural society of the Korean peninsula transformed into a modern capitalistic society. Respected instructors from Japan were stationed on the peninsula to educate Korean citizens. Furthermore, an enormous amount of capital flowed into the area from the Japanese government, and there was construction of various infrastructures. In actuality, the days of Japanese colonization was a period of industrial revolution for the Korean peninsula. There is no doubt that Korean people felt happiness at experiencing cultural enlightenment like never before. During this period, the Korean peninsula was not a colony of Japan. It was part of Japan. Since 1986, it has become taboo for the Japanese Prime Minister or cabinet members to worship at Yasukuni Shrine. Each visit to the shrine brings intensive criticism from Korea and China. However, there were no battles between Korea and Japan during the Pacific War. At that time, Korea was part of Japan, and Korean people participated in the war as part of the Japanese armed forces. In that respect, it would not be far from the truth to say that Korea is a country guilty of war crimes. When considering Korea's lack of involvement in the war, it is illogical for Korea to criticize Japan, even while the United States of America, which was Japan's actual opponent, remains silent.